restraining order? Was he always a suspect in this?
No, not from the get-go. It was developed over the course of doing this investigation. Obviously, when the detectives first got there, it was possible self-defense was the initial claim. So that's what they were initially investigating was this self-defense or was this not? So this came up in the course of that investigation.
Joe had mentioned that just the timing of it now was this has been going on, the investigation has been going on for a long time, but there was a recent break in the case, and going through the documents, it looks like you got a lot of information from Brian's wife. Is that possibly the break you could have been talking about, some things that came together in March?
Was it Ted Pulver, the private eye?
It was both. We got information from the private eye that Shelley Stark hired to look into her investigation, which is kind of unusual when you hire somebody to look into the investigation and try to exonerate yourself, and then this person comes up with additional information that actually, gave us some more probable cause to arrest Brian Moore, the boyfriend. So that was a little unusual. We don't usually see that in a case like this. But that was part of it. Talking to his wife was part of it. Talking to his associates down there. The detectives have already been down to Anaheim about 8 months ago in preparation for Shelley Stark's trial. And so then they kept working on it, especially Detective Hollenbach. He's the lead detective. They kept working on it and kept developing more and more information until it finally led to arrest warrant. And they went down on Monday, and with the help of Anaheim PD, their major crimes unit, were able to arrest Mr. Moore late Monday night.
And was he at a warehouse, I understand, in Anaheim that he owns?
Well, yeah, his wife, he had left his house. He's no longer living with his wife, so he's living in this warehouse that he rents or he owns, and now he's living in. So that's where I believe that they arrested him at.
Now, are there other possible crimes that Anaheim might be investigating? I understand he had some illegal weapons there, possibly some other cases. Has Anaheim opened up anything?
Well, I know that when you're talking about the illegal weapons, he had some silencers that he had made for his weapons. So ATF is now involved in this, and where they go with it, I can't tell you right now. It's really too early. And if Anaheim has any cases, I'm not aware of, but they could. I haven't been told of that yet.
So has Shelley said anything about this? Have you tried to talk to her about Moore's involvement, or has she?
I don't know if Detective Hollenbach has tried to talk to her recently. I don't believe so, but I think this was all done through the associates of Brian Moore.
The $400,000, is there anything left?
That I don't know. I mean, part of it was to get the insurance money. The other part we believe is to get the equity that was in the house. So and some of the other Brian Stark's assets. How much money left? I don't know. We'll be following that up.
And there were some large sums of cash, $80,000 mentioned at one point that he just brought into the office, and some other lump sum things that the associates had seen. I guess, is there any way to know whether or not that was part of the insurance money or any proceeds maybe from the drugs and the marijuana and the guns?
Well, that's part of our probable cause is that money did come from assets from Dale Stark. So, and then we have to go to court and prove that, obviously. But, yeah, we believe that money was generated from the death of Dale Stark and the acquisition of his life insurance policy and the assets of his house.
Could he face any more charges because the details in here about threats, lies, fraud?
He could. I mean, there's definitely fraud charges there. But, we try to charge the most appropriate crime and the highest of the crimes. And so it's first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. So what they do down the road is up to the prosecutor, up to the courts. But I said we did have probable cause for those two charges, and we ended up getting the arrest warrant based on that.
If Dale Stark is killed in Spokane and Brian Moore is in California, how can you charge him with first-degree murder in the act itself?
Because we believe he took part in the murder, that he took part in arranging the murder, even though he wasn't here. And we actually have indication that he was back in Spokane, back in California. So he was coming and going from California. But we believe that he actually helped plan, set up this murder.
And it sounds like you have also uncovered that he was fabricating the threats that Dale Stark was allegedly making against Shelley, she claimed bad woman syndrome. She was a fear for her life. Sounds like he was helping her make that up and asking other people to lie about the existence of those things.
Yeah, again, those are some of the witnesses that our detectives were able to get a hold of in statements that they took from the witnesses. And sure, that's exactly what they said, is that the threats that were alleged to have happened from Dale Stark were not of life-threatening seriousness as Brian Moore and Shelley Stark both contend they were. So, yeah, we've kind of punched a lot of holes in this story based on just the interviews that we've conducted.
Bail is $1.5 million, one of the highest I've ever seen. Is there any particular reason for it to be so high?
That's news to me. I didn't know what the bail was. So 1.5. I mean, we're talking about first-degree murder and a conspiracy first-degree murder. So I was not aware they were that high.
Could it also be due to flight risk, or elsewhere?
It's possible. I mean, he'll have to waive extradition, and we'll have to go through the extradition procedures, but we'll eventually, bring him up here. They did do some search warrants on his warehouse that he was at, and I know they seized his computer. I don't know exactly what other items that they did get from him based on our case. Of course, I know ATF is now interested in following up that part too. So.
Now, I've heard Moore described as a confidence man who preys on people like Shelley in prostitution positions and kind of takes advantage of them. Do you think, is this the first time he's done this, or was this just a one-time thing?
Well, until we get further into it, I don't know. I can't say this is the first time he's done it or this is a scheme. He does. He's not an attorney. He's a paralegal. At one point, he rented his office out to an attorney, so he's in the legal field, but he's not an attorney, and so I can't say if he's done this before.
For Pulver to come forward when he's working for her, is he being honest? Did you force him to do it? How did that? I mean, it's unusual, as you said. Is he just a really honest private eye, or did you have to put this squeeze on?
No, I believe he came to us. I mean, obviously we wouldn't know he had that information unless he came to us initially and said, I've got something here. And so it's unusual. It hasn't, at least in my experience, it hasn't happened before. But we certainly believed what he had to say.
I mean, it basically confirmed everything that you guys thought anyway, right? Or did you get new information from him?
Well, that I don't know. I mean, I'm not 100% familiar with the case, so I don't know if it was any new information or if they had all got that.
Can you relate how allegedly Mr. Moore instructed Shelley to get rid of any weaponry that Mr. Stark may have had in his home prior to first showing up at her gun, so he couldn't fight back?
Yeah, there was indications, at least some statements, that Mr. Moore had told her where the guns were or to get rid of the guns. He supposedly, Dale Stark had a 9mm at his house, and he instructed her, this is allegations obviously, instructed her to remove that so he couldn't get that in case he was trying to defend himself in the attack.
Do you see perhaps more of Shelley's family being charged up, perhaps her father cashing those checks where he allegedly forged somebody else's signature?
Well, at this time it's too early to comment on that. I do not know. Again, these Detective Hollenbach and Sergeant Peterson are going to continue to do an investigation on this case, so we'll see where it leads, basically. Okay, we're good?
Thanks a lot.
All right. I'm dropping all these papers in there.